Come back from that short break. Manda Akol Amazima is my name. At this point, I take the opportunity to invite Dr. Fred Muhumuza, who is our keynote speaker, keynote presenter. And shortly after him, we shall have Melissa Nyakwera, who is the head of agribusiness, Stanbic Bank. And Stanbic Bank, actually one of the partners. So we wish to thank the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, Uganda Cooperative Alliance and Stanbic Bank actually for making it possible that every cooperator who's out there can actually be part of this celebration that is being held virtually. So Dr. Fred Muhumuza, I invite you to make your presentation in 15 minutes.
Thank you very much, moderator, and I want to once again greet everybody who is out there viewing us on this important day, the Cooperatives Day, and what a very important theme of rebuilding better together. We're in the middle of a pandemic. It has already affected our lives, it has affected our livelihoods, it has affected our economy, so there's no better theme than talking about rebuilding this better together. I'll be running through a few things and highlights that really we want to talk about, that focusing on cooperatives and the COVID pandemic is an important thing for us, and we are putting this within the context of the parish development model, which is part of the National Development Plan 3 implementation framework. It shouldn't be very new to very many people. We know there have been quite a number of people out there who have thought that the parish development model is new. The word parish has never been new. I grew up in a parish, I grew up in a village, I grew up in a sub-county. So this is exactly what we're talking about. And since 1992, government has been talking about decentralization. And decentralization goes all the way to the villages. We have a number of government institutions that have already been using this framework for the delivery of services. We all know that in the means of education, the objective is to have a primary school in every parish, a secondary school in every sub-county. So these have already been implementing planning and implementation based on the parish model, or the parish as a unit of planning. We also know the Ministry of Health had a health center too, planned for every parish, and then village health teams at the village level that feed into the health center 2s and into the health center 3s that are supposed to be at every sub-county, and then health center 4s that are in every constituency. So this is not something new, but we're saying while that is happening, it is important that we move with the people inclusively. So we are trying to, through this approach of the parish development model, to rebuild effectiveness and functionality of the government. It has been there, but as you hear people say to Saba government, to Yambe, to use the other languages, they are not just saying government give us handouts. They are saying government please be around and play your role. We have, with the Ministry of Local Government, identified that there are about 5,000 parishes that do not even have parish chiefs. So you can find the difficulty there if you really want to implement the cooperative. And the commissioner cooperative here sends a message. Who is he sending it to when there is no parish chief? It will end at a very high level with the cow, or possibly with the sub-county chief. So we are saying let this authority of government go all the way down. Similarly, there are about 500 to 700 town boards or town councils that actually are not operational. They were created, the politicians are in place, so you can imagine a commissioner who exists, a councillor who exists, but actually the operational structure of government is not there. So the parish development model is about that. How do we mobilize the communities? And this partnership with the cooperatives is very, very handy, because government needs to work with the voluntariness, the willingness of the communities themselves to associate themselves and work together. But also there is the aspect of the legality. I mean, there are so many languages and words being used out there, federations, associations, and all sorts of things. Cooperative is the word, because cooperative has a legal framework. If you do not agree with the law, laws are there to be reformed to match and the status. You don't set up a parallel system. So I would be very happy the things we are calling associations and what, let government run along the cooperative model. Let government run along the cooperative system. People are already organized at society level, those unions, and they come all the way. My presentation has a few things, and if they can show you possibly the slide that shows the trend of how the economy has grown, because we are talking about rebuilding. Let's move on to the next slide, please. Keep moving on, the next one. These are development results we have talked about. The challenges we have faced, the things we have not been able to see because we still have erratic poverty trends. Poverty is up, poverty is down, vulnerability. We are all in the middle of trying to see how do we help communities that have been affected by lockdowns. So some government systems have not been very effective, and this is what the parish model is about. The cooperatives are about to make sure unemployment, low incomes are addressed so that people are not affected within 1 week of a disruption of their regular business. They will have their savings within the circles, they will have the cooperative bank, or whichever other institution they have to work with to support them. Next, please. These are human beings. It's a common picture. You will find it anywhere in Uganda today. These are not there for fun. They are not there for a meeting. They came to work. You can see them. They came with their tools. Same thing here. These are people downtown. They want to work. This was before the lockdown. So you cannot say because there was a lockdown, people are not working. How do you organize people of that nature? How do we support them? Let's move on to the next, please. Now, that is the trend of the economy. So you can see at the end of that picture, when we are talking about rebuilding better together, it is a reality that COVID affected the economy. It went down. It's struggling to come back. We have had another lockdown. We don't know how that will affect us, but that emphasizes the need for rebuilding together because you don't want to leave anybody behind. And that picture also is showing us that much as the budgets have been going up, the response of the economic growth rate has been going down. Why? Because grassroots level institutions are not there. We're talking about cooperatives. We're talking about functionality and effectiveness of these parishes. The budgets up, the levels must go down, and when they go down, institutions do matter. There must be a government institution, there must be a community institution, there must be private sector institutions to translate these budgets into realities. And that's the cry of the parish development model. How do you personalize the office of the president? Office of the president is not a ministry. It is the office of the president. And there is a concern by the security agencies, so the military through Operation Wealth Creation, domiciled right in the office of the president, is concerned to make sure we link development with the communities. Because every time the communities have a complaint, it is the security agencies that are called in. So they don't want that. They want to see development. Nobody is quarreling because they want to quarrel. They want to be busy making some money, earning a living, and trying to push their lives further. And let's organize them. Next slide, please, as we go on. And other countries have really done it. I had a quick peek of some of the countries that have run the race alongside Uganda's 35, 40 years. Vietnam began their journey in 1986, like us. Their GDP has multiplied 10 times. Their population hasn't increased that much. It hasn't doubled. Over that period, Uganda's population has instead multiplied by 3 times. So what do we do to mobilize the communities to manage the population dynamics, to organize themselves to do more production of crops and money rather than families and children whom they may not be able to address? We are now celebrating the 99th year of cooperatives. China on first celebrated their 100th year of their party. China the economy has multiplied 40 times since 1980. 40 times, from less than 500 billion United States dollars to over 18 trillion. And China, as we all know, is a socialist. We are talking cooperative. It's a socialist template. You may talk about communism. It is about organizing communities to work together. Over those 40 years, China has eradicated something called absolute poverty. 800 million people have been moved out of poverty. It's not because of guns. We have always known China for guns, for phones, but it was about cooperatives, organizing the communities for a cause and driving that cause. And you can see they have been able to do it. Let's move on to the next, please. What is the status of Ugandan household? When you look at that slide there, you will actually see that the bulk of household incomes is being consumed on housing, education, and health. That one eats up almost 75% of the people. Now, people who are that vulnerable with their limited income, because these are basics of life, housing, utilities, food, eating up 75, you can only save such people by putting them together, to put their resources together. And I want to move on to the next slide that speaks actually to what is this parish development model. You can skip that slide because I've already explained what the parish development model is all about. that it's not new, that it has been there. Let's move on to the next slide. Want to be able to save time. These are the structures. Most people think the parish development model is about giving money. It's a myoga, it's another ntandikwa. No, it has 7 solid pillars. And as you can see them there, the immediate one that we are talking about that needs to come into play is actually the one on governance and administration. The chief administrative officers have already received instructions to recruit the parish chiefs. The parish chiefs will put in place the parish development committees, people who understand the issues. And you already have seen the dilemma. Honorable Prime Minister is ready to compensate the poor, but where are they? Who knows them? If we already had these systems functional, the LOC one, the parish chief, the village chief, the communities would know who needs to be helped, whether with a phone or without a phone. These are the things we are trying to address by putting government functionality and effectiveness on the ground, so that we can know the vulnerable, we can know the poor, and they can be targeted, they can be supported through all those structures of production, through structures of infrastructure, putting up education and health facilities. We are now all realizing that the health facilities need investment, but the communities have already suffered. A basic thing like a simple delivery, a basic thing like simple immunization have not been happening in some of these places, and we never get to know, because government at the ground level has not been there. So we want to mobilize the communities for health. Let's move on to the next slide as we come close to the end. That framework helps us really to, so if you move it from the left to the right, you will see a pentagon, which is really talking about the resources of the communities. The 5 letters there that you see that resources have social capital, they have natural capital, they have physical capital, they have financial capital. These are the things they need to pull together as communities to address their livelihoods. And in the middle, we're talking about the structures that are needed, the level of government and the private sector. But these can only support communities when they have already ganged up together. We have had people talk of middlemen. When people are pulled up together, there is safety in numbers. We want to pull up the people together so that the laws and the policies will help them get to the right way. We're looking at results of these livelihoods, reduced vulnerability, improved food security, everything that we have been mentioning as government, but we have not seen as I've illustrated below. And also COVID has really shown us that the people we thought were food secure are actually not food secure. So grassroots-based institutions, the commonest of them is going to be the cooperatives. And it's not just about Uganda. Listen to the next slide. I possibly have 2 more. Here we are saying cooperatives the world over. This is the case of Europe. They have over 140 million members with over 4 million employees and 180,000 enterprises. This is a cooperative movement in Europe. It developed well. So it's not about poor people. How did Europe develop? You need to go back and see the role that has been done by cooperatives, by them working together, dairy cooperatives, coffee cooperatives. We can have all sorts of things, but there is benefit in cooperating together. We create jobs, we reduce reduction, we'll be able to beef up. And this synchronizes very well that while communities mobilize themselves, the parish development model is mobilizing government to be effective, to be functional at those levels. The sky will be the limit. Let's move on to the second last slide, or possibly the last one. That the cooperatives and the parish development model have a way of, they will help to stabilize those economic cycles. We are right now in a cycle, as I've shown you earlier. The economy has gone down. How do you help people to rebuild back? We can only do that better together. The theme was very, very handy, and it's a global theme, speaking to the concerns in Uganda. Cooperative business will help stabilize the communities. The people who are trying to help, growing up in the 70s, in the 80s, the cooperatives were there to help us go through those hard times. Even when without money, they will be there to help you, standing for you at the school, and you will not be sent home, because the coffee will eventually be sold. So we are looking at those aspects of cooperatives, knowing their members, pulling together resources, and this is what the parish development model is about. How do you strengthen grassroots level institutions for better development? I want to challenge everybody to join in this kind of drive of making sure we do the last mile of decentralization by championing the parish development schemes and systems and programs. And when we talk about parish, we are not ignoring the sub-county, because the sub-county supervises the parish, and the sub-county is supervised by the cow. So literally we are deepening and strengthening decentralization for local economic development to remove poverty, remove vulnerabilities. Countries like China have shown us it can be done. And I hope we can do it. And like Obama said, yes, we can. I want to thank you for listening to me and to call upon everybody to join this cooperative spirit. Let's join our people, let's put them together, because if these grassroots are not strong, as they call them, bottom of the pyramid is going to crumble on us. And COVID has literally shown this to us. Many of us who are comfortable with our bungalows, with our schools, COVID has said if households are not strong, your kids will be empty, your schools will be empty, you will also be vulnerable, including the banks themselves. I want to thank you very much.